I know. They're not enforcing because this is not so.
Okay, good evening. This is the Mayor's Agenda, official public hearing of Tuesday, July 6, 2021, 6:45 p.m. Council Chambers. I would call this meeting to order. First item and only item is Ryan Nyson, Deputy Fire Chief.
Mayor, Council, good evening. The Fire and Police Department, along with the Building Inspector Department, are in need of replacing our current analog radio system and go to a digital system that's called MOSWIN. It's a statewide system. USDA has assisted other departments in the purchase of the radio equipment that would be necessary. We're asking you for your approval to apply for a grant. The grant would be 35% of a total $681,180. The Marion County 911, Rawls County 911 have committed a total of $200,000 towards the project. The balance required by the city would then be $242,767. This is a system that, for those of you that don't know, at any time we could go to an incident here within our city limits and we would have multi-agencies respond to that. It could be city police, city fire, highway patrol, either county sheriff's department, either county ambulance district. And this would really make our communications much more efficient on an everyday basis and on the scene. Questions? Anything I did not cover?
You seem to be the knowledge on this.
I just know enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be dangerous. This also assists, and I'm sure, I'm trying to draw back off of years ago, but also for any type of regional response like the Region B hazmat response team and
It
such.
is a statewide system.
Okay.
We could communicate with just about anyone in the state.
In our primary.
Right. But we have to take care of the inside the city for that to occur.
Inside the city is our primary goal here.
Okay.
And just to clarify, this is just the public hearing to apply. We
Yes.
do not have any pre-authorization that we have the money. We still have to go through the application process.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. This time the floor is open for public comments. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against the program which the Deputy Chief wishes us to apply for.
Mayor, may I have the floor, please?
Carrie.
As many of you may or may not know, I'm Vice Chair of NECOM, which is Marion County 911, Rawls County 911, Lewis County 911 combined. For several years, especially Hannibal Police Department's been challenged with communications due to antiquated radio system. Most one is fully maintained by the state of Missouri. In fact, my truck is equipped with most one capable radio. It's on VHF. I can go anywhere in the state, Kansas City, St. Louis, or wherever, and talk to dispatch here in Hannibal. And because the system is maintained by the state, there are certain periods of times where they might have one of the repeater sites down for a period of time, which will require the city to maintain their old system as a backup. Of course, you know, redundancy is critical in emergency services, but more importantly is communications lately have been real challenged at dispatch, especially with HPD because of their amount of traffic, with dispatchers having to ask officers repeat themselves because they're not audible or because the frequency itself is scratchy because of equipment or whatever, you know, atmospheric conditions are going on. With the digital system, it updates from the old analog type In other words, you won't have the scratchy come in and go out. It's either there or it's not. So, you know, the communications will be much improved. The safety of officers, fire department would be enhanced. And, you know, it's so much so that the 911 agencies believed in it so much that they put up money toward that system as an enhancement to have the city, you know, come on board to aid both the dispatch agency and then the fire department, police department combined. So just my 2 cents worth, definitely, you know, for the program.
Any other comments, questions, or statements like to be made at this time? Okay, hearing none, I'll call this public hearing to a close, and we'll reconvene at 7 for the regularly scheduled council meeting.
Jim, how you doing? she has it was in Tokyo. Waiting list. She didn't even keep it just because if he took it. One of the most positive.
Okay, good evening. This is the mayor's agenda, City of Hannibal Official Council Agenda, Tuesday, July 6, 2021, council chamber 7 p.m. And I ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Here.
Councilmember Franke.
Here.
Mayor Hark.
Here.
Councilmembers Bowen.
Here.
Welch.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
And McCoy.
Here.
Okay, there being a quorum, I'd call this meeting to order. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson, would you do the invocation this evening?
Lord, we come to you in prayer, ask you to watch over us as we deliberate the business of the city, ask you to protect our first responders, ask you to protect the people overseas, American troops pulling out of Afghanistan, watch over those people, be with those in Miami and the disaster down there. Watch over our citizens, Lord, and help us get through what looks like maybe pandemic coming around again. Pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Councilman Welch, would you lead us in?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Council, at this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as it is posted this Tuesday, July 6, 2021.
I move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I'm now seeking a motion to approve the minutes of the regularly scheduled council meeting of June 15, 2021.
So move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Now requesting a motion to approve the payroll and claims for the second half of June 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over payroll and claims? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. First item on the agenda is Jason Craigbaum, Heartland Auto Body and Towing. Okay. Good evening, Jason.
Hello. Just here on behalf of our festival again for this year, July 23rd and 24th. Got a copy of it. I think they emailed it late today. Did you get it?
Debbie may have. I didn't
If not,
follow
I
up
got
with
my
her,
number.
but that's fine.
Sure.
Copy.
Right. Okay, and that was your certificate of insurance. This looks pretty much like the application that you had 2 years ago, wishing to block Collison Street from Friday about noon until Saturday evening at midnight to ensure that the resident there on Collison Street has access to their property or not blocked in, and also utilize that street for emergency services. I think that worked out pretty well last time, unless anyone else remembers differently. And then there's also a request here in this application, council, to enact the section 16184, paragraph C, for the noise ordinance increase for outdoor performances. Last time, I believe, Hannibal Police Department went out and did spot checks and were there for the sound time, for the setup of the sound equipment. So
You're not changing the configuration any. You're still basically your sound projection to be toward the highway.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we was at 97, 98, and we asked them just to have the 125 just for to have it. Not that we need it, but just to kind of protect myself. So.
Sure.
So it is the 23rd and 24th. Our thing says the 22nd, 23rd.
should be 23rd, 24th.
Yeah.
So Friday, Saturday, correct?
Friday and Saturday. And then also, I was asking, I think it was wrote on there, the dead end of New London Gravel, just to have the one side of that, just right there at the end. I know there's one house at the end of that street, and I wouldn't want to block them, but just the one side of the road.
That's on the side of
To the
your
north
property.
side, right there from Collison to the dead end,
Okay.
just the end of it.
There's a open water ditch there that would keep anybody from parking off and getting stuck down in that area, which right now is pretty soupy. If it's anywhere
Has
else,
been.
like anywhere else in Hannibal. Council, that's the only thing I see on the application. Obviously, I will abstain from the vote on this.
I just state that I attended both nights 2 years ago and didn't encounter or see any problems, so make a motion that we approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, do we need to amend it to for the correct dates?
It's correct in the application.
Oh.
24.
Never mind.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll abstain. So you want to call it?
Certainly. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Franke,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Abstain.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
and McCoy.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thanks for doing that. That's actually a really nice event and it's something for that side of town to do. Well,
It
all
is.
of
I'm
town,
looking
but
forward to
yes.
it.
Yeah, should be good.
Right. The next item on the agenda is Brian Unteed with MoDOT Northeast District Central Area Engineer.
Thank you all for having me. Like the mayor said, my name is Brian Unteet. I'm the central area engineer for MoDOT, cover Marion, Rawls County, within the city limits of Hannibal. What I'm here to talk about today is a project that we got coming up in a couple years. The Missouri 79 viaduct over the Bear Creek Railroad down in that area is about 55 years old in that area. The bridge deck that we got down there is getting pretty rough. We hear a lot of concerns about that. Based off replacement plans, life cycles, we've started the process to plan for replacing that bridge. When we started this process, probably started about a year ago, we actually had some meetings with first responders in the area, different groups, because we know a replacement project like this, with that closure is going to be an impact. So we have started working on that. As we've worked our way through, we're still in the preliminary plans process. We've started kind of meeting with some of the stakeholders down in the area. We had a meeting with some of the city leadership and kind of got a list of, especially the people whose buildings are right adjoining to us of that. So we've had some conversations to get input from Jack's Harbor and Marine. We've talked to the JCs, trying to kind of get feedback on how this is going to fit with that area. Just kind of update you on some of the things that is going to change down there. Right now, the bridge comes across. There used to be more railroad tracks down there that we had to have a higher clearance on. When we got past those tracks, we dropped down at a pretty quick grade, I think 8 to 9% in there. So if y'all are familiar with it, you know that north end of the bridge is a pretty steep grade. It's not a grade that we can keep on that bridge going forward in the future. So when you look at that bridge, it touches down just south of Church Street. And even with that pretty steep grade, it barely gets above Lion Street. So with what we're looking at now with meeting the standards for ADA on that grade, Lion Street's not really going to fit underneath that new bridge that's going to be there at the time. That's something we've had conversations with the JCs, with Jack, with Jack's Harbor. You know, we understand the concern with that, but physically it's just going to be tough to get that through there. So we're trying to get out and get that conversation with especially the local stakeholders and discuss that. One of the good things that the bridge is probably going to include is going to be a bike ped path. You know, it's going to get people across better. I know there's always been concerns about the stairs that are on the bridge. we will not be going back with a set of stairs on the bridge. It'll have a complete bike pedestrian use path that goes from the south end of the bridge up to the north end. Right now, we're looking on the east side of the bridge for that. The actual bridge itself, the travelway lanes are going to stay pretty well what they are now as far as width. But with that extra bike ped path, it is going to move a little bit to the south or to the east and get a little bit closer to some of the buildings in there. And that's a conversation we've had with the JCs about the proximity to that. We've discussed making sure to get enough clearance over the flood wall that's down in that area, working with the Corps of Engineers on that also. The two side streets that run parallel to the bridge and come out, that's really been a subject of conversation with that bike ped path that's going to be on the east side of the bridge. It's going to make it hard to keep both those open, or pretty well impossible. So that side street on the east side of the bridge is going to be shut off as that bike ped path comes down with the bridge. On the west side, those have been kind of part of the conversations with Jax, with the JCs, of what are some options on that. If we do end up closing that, it could be a bike ped path, some sort of ADA down there. But one of the concerns we've got from the locals is, can we find a way to keep that open and make drainage work in that area? And so that's something that will be an ongoing discussion with the stakeholders down there, with the city and everybody involved. This is still very early in the process. We're still in preliminary design right now. We are working with a consultant and just really trying to reach out with everybody and make sure we inform people as soon as we can with this, and keep everybody informed as the process goes forward. What we're looking at is construction season in calendar year 23, so 2 years from now. We're thinking, though, in a way to minimize how long the bridge is shut down, would be to maybe start the winter before, so winter of 22-23, and build as much of the bridge on the outside, kind of the outside footprint of it as we can, like some of the columns, and do some construction while the existing bridge is still open, so we can minimize the impact of that. Like I said, we understand this is a major impact of the JCs, and I've had conversations with Councilman Beach and members of the JCs. As I said, I've talked to Jack with Jack's Harbor and Marine, and we're wanting to get that feedback and try to find ways to help people with that. But when you're building a bridge in these tight confines, there's some things that we just can't really change or affect. We have, certain things that we have to do, but we want to keep that communication open, especially over the next year and a half as we work through the plans with this. Does anybody have any questions?
So it's going to involve taking down the old and replacing with new.
Yep.
So there would be no intermediary, I guess. I guess it'd be a tough one for you, but can you pick a year where it doesn't flood?
That's my question was there.
Yeah.
That is the main
That's
access.
the main concern for emergency services. I mean, if it floods and we lose, South Main Street, Ely Street, it's a long way around.
Yeah. One of the reasons, especially on the emergency response, we started this kind of conversation. We contacted John Hart and started working on that and getting with the ambulance district, the fires, because we know that impact. If we have a good year, it doesn't flood. It's pretty minimal to the residents down there. They've got a good way around. If we do have a flood, we know that it's a pretty major impact for that group too. So when we look at that, what we kind of like to do is we continue to have these discussions is, are there ways to kind of proactively prepare in case there is a flood, of what could be done to have emergency services down there. Hopefully something that we don't need, but what are some options on that? So it's kind of one thing we really wish this bridge could last forever, and not have to really get into the process of replacing it, because it is an impact on the downtown, on the south side, on the businesses around there, the JCs, but when we looked at it of, the deck needing replaced, it's time to go ahead and get it done and get ahead of it before we get into a situation where the bridge starts to deteriorate worse. And, it's never going to be a good time for that. But that's part of the planning, is really working with those groups. And like I said, this was pre-COVID when we had a lot of these conversations. COVID came along. Right now we're kind of talking to a lot of our neighbors down there, trying to work with them, but then also starting that conversation up with first responders on how we can plan for that.
I guess all we can ask is, before you take the old one down, that you consult with the Corps of Engineers and the hydrologist and, see what their best predictions are before you're fully committed.
Yeah.
That's all we can ask.
Yeah, one of the things, and we have been working with Corps on the flood wall, is, we're looking to have about a 6'8" clearance over the flood wall. Like I said, the bridge is going to be shorter than the one that's there now. The way it was built was we had to have a certain clearance over those railroad tracks, and then it had a really steep drop on the end. And for ADA purposes, for just good design, we need to lighten that slope up a little bit. So the bridge will be shorter in some areas, and we understand the impact of that. But really, for us, the conversations we're having with people have been good. And just hearing their feedback of, these are some of the issues they have, fire response down there, the businesses getting trailers backed in, getting the tractor trailers in there and doing some of that stuff. So it's been a good start to this, and we want to keep up a good communication plan with the city and with the business owners. So.
I got a question.
Okay.
Is the bike ped path going to be protected?
Yes, there'll be a barrier between the bike ped path and the driving lanes there. And then as far as on the other side of the bridge, there'll be some sort of barrier to keep people from throwing stuff off the side of the bridge. I mean, they can always probably climb up stuff and get something over, but yeah, it'll be protected.
I like that answer.
One thing, do you have any drawings currently that you could hand out?
Yep, I brought some drawings here. Kind of shows where the bridge comes down. They're very engineering, I guess would be the right way to say it. So,
Is there anything that we could have? How about that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I can leave these here. You guys can look at them.
Okay.
What I'd say is if you got questions, just let me know. These are displays that were made specifically by the consultant that we're using kind of to hand out. It's something that we've shared in the past. So I don't mind sharing these. The one thing I'd say is these plans change. We're very early in the process, and so what we try to caution people is, if it doesn't look exactly like this when we do it, or if things change pretty majorly, these are all drafts. So it's but like I said, these are. You look at these plans. The top drawing is looking down on the bridge. The bottom drawing is looking at the side of the bridge. So, but yeah, I can leave these here, and anybody can pick them up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this time? I appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us. I also appreciate the fact that yourself and MoDOT is going out and talking to the persons who will be impacted. So obviously transparency and cooperation, that goes a long way with anyone, even if there could be some negative impact. At least if there's discussions and we try to mitigate that, it goes a long way. So rather than just saying this is the way it is, too bad. So
yeah, and I don't think we've hit everybody that's going to be impacted. We know the whole south side is going to be impacted.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one thing that, we'll have some public information coming out on this and some community involvement with it, and just keep an open discussion. But I appreciate, like I said, Councilman Beach has been meeting with me a couple of times, and we've looked at some of these, and Jack's been good to work with, and really get everybody's opinion of, how it's going to impact them, because we look at it a certain way, but we don't catch everything. So the more we can get that input right now, the better it is, and the better design we can get. So
I'm sure the people on South Side would appreciate the hand safety of their children that are walking across and going downtown. So that has to be one positive out of that.
Yep.
I know it's a short time inconvenience.
Just, I won't, keep you to anything, but do you have an estimate on time, basically when you take down the old one, when the new one would open up? What's the schedule look like?
it's hard to tell right now, because like I said, one of the things we're trying to do, and it's going to make the footprint of the bridge bigger. the columns that are going to support it on the outside, we may be able to get in there, like I said, next winter and build some of those columns. And then those columns are already there, and then they take the old bridge down. We'd like to get it done in one construction season, but, some bridges take 90 days to get done. Some of them take a lot more than that, and we're really not far enough in the process to have an idea, but it's going to take a good chunk of the year. The bridge that's there now is actually considered a major bridge. Any bridge over 1,000 foot long, we call a major bridge, and so it's a pretty good construction feat to get it done. It's just over 1,000, and the new bridge is probably going to be just under 1,000. So it'll go down into the normal category. The other thing, and part of the conversation with the owners and neighbors, is going to be constructability. These are going to be pretty big beams that we're going to bring in here, and just having the staging area to get them on the bridge is going to be difficult.
I guess the city could probably offer South Main. There's got a lot of property down there. It's not used. It's not, might be the most convenient, but might be the most practical.
Yeah, and that's something that, our contractor, whoever gets the bid, will have a conversation with neighbors and owners. They have different thoughts sometimes on that, but yeah, constructability will be difficult. It's very close to a couple buildings down there, and it's a lot of conversations going forward. So.
Is 180 days realistic when you take down the old one?
That's going to be tough.
That's tough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably going to be longer than that.
Okay.
As we get a little bit better design, we'll have a better idea on the days of work. And for a bridge like this, generally what we do is we do incentives for the contractor. When we know kind of the staging that we're going to do, kind of know, okay, this is a reasonable amount of time, and if you beat that deadline, you get an incentive. If you don't beat that deadline, you have a penalty you pay for that. So we're going to do everything we can to kind of incentivize an early opening. And a lot of the contractors, they can come up with innovations and good ideas that we, like I said, it wasn't something that we looked at that they might say, well, if you do this, you can cut your days down by 10 days. Okay. So that's kind of the incentive we try to use.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Ms. Jerry Graves, Woodridge Drive.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I'd like to address the trash service issue in Hannibal. The problem of residents that do not have trash service has been a topic of discussion for a while. Trash service is basic to a community, and it seems like we should be able to solve the problem of identifying who is not complying with the requirement to have service. Although we know there is an ordinance that says everyone should have trash service, we all know that some choose to ignore it. It appears that the main issue for our city is that we need an easier way to determine who does and who doesn't have service. My understanding is that the haulers are requested to supply quarterly lists of current customers and monthly lists of new customers and those who have canceled service. Those paper lists are time-consuming, and it still doesn't help us with tracking those who are not complying. Jared Campbell recently submitted a solution of developing software through a third party that could identify those who do not have trash pickup. This is a solution that should be investigated. Having a third party develop and monitor the offenders would assure the trash haulers that their list of customers would be protected. The software should allow haulers to list more than one address on one account, thereby not penalizing those customers who are collecting their trash all at one address. As far as public versus private service, I think we need to continue to encourage small business growth. About half of the net jobs in America come from small businesses, which are defined as any in size from 1 to 500. The private sector represents 78% of the solid waste industry, while the municipal sector controls the remaining 22%, according to Waste Business Journal. I'm in favor of local companies continuing to provide trash service. Because of the layout of Hannibal, that is many hills throughout the town, some handicapped or elderly citizens cannot bring their trash to the street for pickup. These residents rely upon their trash provider to give the added service of coming up to the house or around the back to pick up the trash. The haulers in town are willing to do that. I don't think that would happen if the service was contracted out to a large company. Jobs would be lost and families affected. By keeping the trash hauling business private, the risk of injury to employees is covered through workman's comp purchased by the haulers, thereby removing liability to the city. Our local providers have an incentive to give the best service because of competition. In addition, I think it would be a good idea to see what other cities do to handle this problem, which I doubt is unique to Hannibal. Since compliance is a difficult challenge, I would strongly urge the City Council to include in next year's budget the addition of another code enforcement officer to tackle the ongoing problem of noncompliance, not just in the area of trash service, but in keeping yards mowed and identifying unsafe conditions in the community housing market. I thank you for your time and hope you will continue to explore this issue to find a solution to this ongoing problem.
Thank you very much. Anybody wish to have any discussion? All right. Next item on the agenda is Sarah North. Since you all sat close together, I'm assuming this will be a parallel.
You know, she did a very good job.
I didn't think it would be opposite because you're all sitting too close. Usually they're on different sides here. So. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good news, prepared remarks means no wondering. Good evening. Once again, we in Hannibal have begun a conversation centered around community-wide trash pickup. Having attempted to listen and read in order to be informed concerning the genesis of the topic, what is not yet clear to me seems an obvious question. What is the primary problem that bears resolution? Jerry addressed that. What has been made clear is that part of this conversation centers around those who do or do not pay for garbage removal. What that roster will not mention bears being brought to light. The submitted roster won't mention the possibly many small business owners, such as myself, who opt to mitigate expenses by paying for garbage removal in one location, be it business or home, and choosing to transport their additional trash to that location. In the initial intelligence gathered at the city's behest by our privately operated trash haulers will not be those who partner with family or a neighbor to share the cost of trash removal as a way to manage household expenses. Assuming one of the goals is to simply clean up our city, that roster won't, actually can't, anticipate those who will never accept the responsibility of hauling their own trash to any curb, no matter by whom or how the expense is being borne. Do all present understand that our culture has been very busy teaching folks that they aren't necessarily to be held responsible for their decisions? That reality directly influences this conversation. HGTV's Good Bones is taped in Indianapolis, Indiana. The company business model centers around urban revitalization. Translated, they work in old neighborhoods. A very recent episode discussed the issue of debris that had been dumped on the lot upon which they were to build. We are not unique. The other body of folks who won't be listed on the roster are those who easily throw trash from wherever they happen to be. Every day we walk the same route. Every day we pick up trash on that same route. The routine has offered close encounters with other people's consistently trashy habits. A challenging thought. It seems possible that the problem doesn't lie in who is emptying our garbage cans. The problem might be that garbage isn't being put into receptacles from which to be emptied. Changing our system of collection will solve that problem. In the interest of full disclosure, it seems obvious that all small businesses are in the city's best interest. There is more efficiency and accountability to those for whom the service is rendered. Additionally, our tax base will always be a vitally important consideration. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment on one of your statements that you made. I'm a business owner as well, and I also have dumpsters that I use for my shop. I'm literally a block and a half away from my work, and I do take my own trash down there, and that would account for my trash hauling. So I see your point on that, and I'm glad that you brought it to light.
Okay, council, the next item on the agenda was asked to be removed by the applicant. They can't attend tonight, so we'll move to the next, which is under my name for reappointments. The Municipal Assistance Corporation for a second reading. Michael Holliday, reappointment for a term to expire June of 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. To the Hannibal Tree Board for a second reading. Susan Welker, appointment for a term to expire September of 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And for Hannibal Housing Authority for a first reading, James Sylvie, the appointment for a term to expire April of 2025. We have vacancy there. It's a first reading, so there's no roll call for that. That concludes the items that I had to present. And next on the agenda is Lisa Peck, your city manager.
Good evening, and I have approval of reappointments for you this evening for the Hannibal Board, Park and Recreation Board, and that is Tricia O'Sheltry for reappointment for a term to expire July of 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried for Tricia. Next item.
And my second item is Talia Mayfield, reappointment for a term, also to the Park and Recreation Board for a term to expire July 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried as well. Thank you very much. Angela Sabonia, City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have one item this evening, and it has to do with our conflict of interest ordinance. Biennially, we are required to ratify and reaffirm the city's meeting the requirements set forth by the Missouri Ethics Commission that adheres to their policy. This was originally adopted by the city August 20th of 1991. Some slight modifications to the original ordinance have been made to meet the changes by the Missouri Ethics Commission and also to incorporate the city manager form of government versus the original mayoral form, actually. And the Missouri Ethics Commission does require us to adopt this no later than September 15th of 2021 this year. And having this on file does allow for the city manager and the city clerk only to file the conflict of interest statements unless we have any candidates that conduct business with the city in the amount of transactions over $500. And all candidates are provided this information when they actually complete their declaration of candidacy. This is the same issue that I've brought forth to you for the past
20-something years. And that would be Bill 21-018 to follow. Are there any questions this time? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Edie Grotman, DPW Management Assistant.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I have 3 agenda items this evening. The first one is to set a public hearing for the address of 513 Church. Josh and Adrian Teloli have asked to rezone their property. The current zoning is B multiple family. They're asking to rezone it to local business. for an art gallery / studio. Planning and zoning is hearing their public hearing on this property next Thursday, July 15th at 4 p.m. And I'm asking council to set a public hearing for Tuesday, August 3rd at 6:45 p.m.
Is there a motion to approve setting a public hearing for August 3rd?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion's carried. Next item.
So my next one, it's kind of more of a housekeeping measure. For years, our zoning maps have always shown that we've had a P1 Parks and Recreation zoning, but recently we found that that didn't actually exist. It was on the maps, but the Chapter 32 ordinance didn't have it. So James has wrote an ordinance for us for the P1 Parks and Rec zoning. The ordinance is what I'm presenting tonight for the first reading.
Bill 21-019 to follow. Okay. Next item.
And last, certainly not least, the city of Hannibal has submitted an application to rezone the property of 500 Bridge Street. Currently, this property is zoned P, Parks and Rec, which currently doesn't exist, but we're asking to have it changed to H1 Historic. Over the years, this actual property has been zoned everything from commercial to industrial to now P, Parks and One. But per our city acting engineer, the best zone for it is H1 Historic. So that's what we're asking for to be reset to. We have submitted all the necessary paperwork. This was advertised in the paper. We had a public hearing for it in May at Planning and Zoning. We had a public hearing at Council in June. We had nobody that contested this. We did have a couple people that came and spoke in favor of the rezoning for the H1 Historic. So tonight I'm presenting an ordinance to follow.
Danny just folded.
He's sitting.
Okay, see. See his hand there.
Okay. That'll be Bill 21-020 to follow. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Wait just a second.
Water fountain.
Oh, that's probably what it was, though.
Hey, what, since there's a couple of people out of the meeting right now, and they're just, I don't want to say just city personnel, but go ahead and skip one. Let's go to Ryan Nyson, Deputy Chief. If you'll present now, please, sir.
Okay, here to talk about the USDA grant for the Bozeman radio system. As we discussed earlier, it's a $681,000 project. The USDA portion would be 35%. NECOM from Marion and Ross County has committed $200,000. The city's balance would be $242,767. I'm asking for approval for to apply for the USDA grant in the amount of $238,413.
Okay. That'll be resolution 2351-21 to follow. Is there any questions, council? I think we've covered it earlier.
Thank you.
Chief Nyson, thank you. Okay, let's go. The item on the agenda now is Paul Trenhale with Hannibal BPW Finance Director. I hope I didn't mess your name up, sir. I apologize.
Got it correct, sir. Good evening, council, mayor,
As you may be aware, back in February of 2021 this year, the HPPW was severely impacted by Winter Storm Uri. It was a significant polar vortex that came through and was experienced quite a bit of cold for quite a few days in a row. And you may have heard about some of the impacts that were incurred down south in Texas with some of the power supply costs that were extremely significant. And obviously, we felt those impacts as well here in Hannibal. We expected some legislation to come out for quite some time to kind of help municipalities and utilities with some of these costs. And sure enough, back in May, Governor Parson did sign some legislation that approved $50 million of no-interest emergency loans to municipal electric and natural gas utilities for these extraordinary costs. So the loans will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. And so we are hoping to make this an emergency reading tonight to allow us to kind of get that application in as soon as possible. But essentially, the mid-continent independent system operators who we purchase our power through, a normal bill you can kind of see on there would range anywhere from $80,000 to $110,000 for a week. The bill that came in from February 13th through the 19th was $958,000. So, like I said, a significant impact for sure. Fortunately, we did have reserve funding in place, and the timing kind of worked out with some of our certificates of deposit that came up right around that same time frame that we were able to cover all those costs accordingly. However, obviously, our reserves did take a hit. So really, the net impact that we've calculated there is about $814,000, and so we would go ahead and apply for about $750,000 under this loan program. I did mention that it's zero interest. The loan repayment terms would be up to 5 years. No penalty for early repayment as well. Another thing that we've got going on right now is some significant financing for an electric project. Just with all the uncertainty out there right now, going out for bid and with construction is a little bit risky. And so these funds would replenish some of those reserves in the electric fund to allow us to kind of cover any of that risk that we would have if those bids came in higher than expected. So really at this time, management's just requesting that the council approve a resolution to go ahead and submit the application, and then also pass an ordinance that would approve the loan agreement in the amount of $750,000 for a 5-year term.
I have a quick question. Why not do the whole 814,000 instead of just the 750?
Yeah, so we certainly could do that. Being an accountant, I kind of like round numbers, and so we certainly could have done $814,000. They do, when we did this calculation, they want us to put together the bills that were experienced last year, which I've got down there, and directly comparing to this year, and it does come out to $814,000. However, there's some ancillary costs that we would have to dig in deeper to make sure that everything checked out, and so we kind of went a little bit below that, just so we didn't have to account for some of those ancillary costs. Now, if they do ask us to provide everything, we certainly could do that, but that was the reason for that.
So what I'm hearing is that you're not asking for the full amount, that way you don't jeopardize your application as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly makes sense.
Any other questions?
I just comment. You mentioned Texas, and the big news was big $1,000, $2,000 bills for people in Texas. Certainly appreciate the board having reserves, be able to offset that cost and not pass directly on to consumers. Been a big hit for the community.
Mm-hmm. Great comment. I agree.
Okay, so that'll be a resolution and a bill to follow. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Step back, go to Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services. Sorry, Andy.
That's okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just one item tonight. We have the engineering for the Marina boat slips, a $12,500 engineering agreement with Klingner. This is to look at the design for the different kind of electrical plugins for the actual slip renters. With water and electric not going hand in hand, having an engineer design, especially one who has experience with docks, was important to us in the Board of Public Works. And so this was the next phase of this project. So can you answer any questions?
Andy, is that for all the slips, or are you just looking at a portion?
That we're going to see based on the design, the different kind of loads, what we have it ran to a box now. So what can we do off of that? So what we'll do is we'll look at that and then bring back a proposal here to the council. That's going to be based on cost and demand and a couple different other things.
So you're talking not anything over regular household 120 current?
Probably so. I know we have some boats that are going to be bigger than that, and so that's kind of one of the reasons that we're looking into this.
Okay.
We do have boats that are desiring this. We haven't set the price yet. We're going to wait and see what this comes out of, but there will be an upcharge on slip rentals for this service. And then based on how we've done it in the past, it'll be metered to each boat. So
You have Tesla chargers down there?
someday. I have to ask Matt about that one.
Any other questions for Andy at this time? It'll be resolution 2350-21 to follow. Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
I think I got it. All right. Council will now move to resolution number 2349-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution, call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2349-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal, Missouri, authorizing the application and the mayor to execute the Municipal Utility Emergency Loan Program for the purpose of obtaining a loan from the state of Missouri to finance wholesale electricity and/or natural gas costs incurred due to extraordinary prices between February 10th and 20th, 2021, in the amount of $750,000. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Franke?
Yes.
Mayor Hart?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
And McCoy?
Yes.
I declare resolution 2349-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have resolution 2350-21. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution, call the roll for adoption.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution number 2350-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a short form agreement for engineer, architect, surveying services between the city and Klinger and Associates in the amount of $12,500 for the design of an electrical distribution system for the marina boat slips. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Franke?
Yes.
Mayor Hart?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
Beach?
Yes.
And McCoy?
Yes.
Declare resolution 2350-21 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have resolution 2351-21. Need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution, call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2351-21, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the grant application process and execution of, including subsequent
Acceptance.
Thank you. Documents to negotiate a grant to be made or insured by the United States of America, acting through the Farmers Home Administration, United States Department of Agriculture, in an amount not to exceed $238,413 for the purchase of fire, police, and building inspection digital radios for the MOSWIN system. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmembers Franke.
Yes.
Mayor Hart.
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
And McCoy.
Yes.
I declare resolution 2351-21 duly approved and adopted on this day.
You two gonna make it over there?
What?
You two gonna make it over there? That was a tough one for both of
I
you.
don't know. Getting weary. We now have before us bill number 21-017 as amended. Need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading as amended.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Are we still looking at that 90-day time frame to implement?
60.
60, I'm sorry, I apologize, yep, you're at 60. Is that right, James? Is we good with that?
Sure. The forms are essentially done. I just need to make sure everybody's okay with the forms as I've drafted.
Okay.
I had some time to work on them that I wasn't sure I was going to have time to do, but I think I'm good. I need to get with staff and verify a couple of things, but
Okay.
60 days is
Good, thank you.
Further discussion? Just looking at some of the other cities, I'm certainly not in favor of it, but some of the other cities that do have it, that I've researched today, are all smaller cities, around 10,000 or so. And one of the items in their ordinances or rules that I kind of liked was that proof of paying their personal property taxes on the vehicle had to be approved or submitted before the vehicle could actually be licensed. It's that way with automobiles now, unless, of course, it's in the year of the purchase. I would like to see that added. Is that possible, James?
whatever you all tell me to put in there, Mayor Pro Tem, I can put in.
What's the logic?
Well, the logic is that, if it's going to be on the streets, just like your car, personal property taxes ought to be paid on it. If it's not declared, you're not going to pay on it, and something that's not licensed with the state could very easily probably be hidden and avoid the property tax, even though it might be minimal, but it is revenue for the city and also the county.
And those pieces of equipment be operating on the infrastructure that is supported by those fees.
Which they do pay road tax through buying gas.
But so do cars.
Right.
So do motorcycles.
Cars
So
are
it's
cars are
just bringing them in
licensed.
compliance with everything else that's on the roadways.
Vehicles are licensed. These actually do not have a title and a way to license them. So it would actually just be a permit.
And they probably don't belong on the road then, wouldn't you agree?
Kind of think that's what the council decided.
Any other discussion? You have a motion and a second, is that correct? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
This will be to read 2117 as amended. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
No.
Councilmembers Franke,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
No.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
McCoy.
Yes.
5-2. Okay, so bill number 21-017 as amended. An ordinance of the City of Hannibal revising Chapter 17, Article 7 of the revised ordinances of the City of Hannibal by adding certain sections pertaining to operation of utility terrain vehicles. Second and final reading. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
No.
Councilmember Franke,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
No.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
and McCoy.
Yes.
That motion carries.
I declare bill number 21-017 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have bill number 21-018. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 21-018, an ordinance ratifying and reaffirming the City of Hannibal's procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials and employees as required biennially by the Missouri State Statutes 105.483 and 105.485. First reading.
Okay, we now have bill 21-019. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 21-019, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal revising Chapter 32, zoning of the revised ordinances of the city by adding a new section, Article 16, District P1, Parks and Recreation District. First.
We now have bill 21-020. Need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So move.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 21-020, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal rezoning 500 Bridge Street from P1 Parks and Recreation District to H1 Historic District and amending the city's zoning map accordingly. First reading.
And we have bill number 21-021. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill an emergency reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bill number 21-021, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal authorizing the execution of a loan agreement between the city and the state of Missouri, acting by and through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, Division of Energy, for the purpose of obtaining a loan pursuant to the Municipal Utility Emergency Loan Program to finance wholesale electricity and/or natural gas cost incurred due to the extraordinary prices between February 10th and 20th, 2021, establishing a dedicated source of revenue for repayment of such loan, authorizing and approving certain documents in connection therewith, and authorizing other actions in connections with the loan agreement in an amount not to exceed $750,000. Emergency reading. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmembers Franke. Mayor Hark.
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
And McCoy.
Yes.
Declare bill number 21-021 duly approved and adopted on this day. Council, this time I ask to go into closed session in accordance with RSMO 610.021, paragraph 3, 12, and 13. Admitting myself, council, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and Andy Dorian.
Motion to go into closed session.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke.
Yes.
Mayor Hark.
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
And McCoy.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for participating this evening. We appreciate it. I heard on the agenda.